Imagine boarding a plane, expecting a routine journey. Now, imagine that everything changes in an instant because of a decision made by the pilot, a decision that would seal the fate of 46 passengers and crew. This is the story of one of the most unsettling events in aviation history, where just 28 seconds stood between life and death. Pause for emphasis. What happened on that flight? What could drive a pilot to make such a choice? And what went through the minds of those 46 people in the final moments? Today, we're uncovering the full story, from the initial decision to the moments leading up to impact. Begin with background about the pilot and flight. To understand how this all began, let's start with the pilot himself. Known as an experienced and reliable professional, he was trusted by his colleagues and passengers alike. But as investigations would later reveal, there were hidden details in his life, stresses and struggles he kept hidden even from those closest to him. Was it personal turmoil, or something deeper, that caused him to take that fateful step? Shift to the day of the flight. On the day of the flight, everything seemed normal. Passengers were settling in, stowing their bags, greeting the flight attendants. The plane took off smoothly, climbing to cruising altitude, and everything felt routine. But in the cockpit, the pilot made a series of subtle adjustments, small moves that no one else could notice, but that would ultimately make all the difference. Build suspense as the critical moment approaches. Then it happened. In the span of mere seconds, the pilot made a deliberate change, disengaging the autopilot and taking full control. With a single decision, he changed the course of the flight, guiding it on a path toward disaster. Those final 28 seconds were like an eternity as the plane hurtled downward. Passengers were frozen in their seats, gripped by the confusion and terror of the unknown. What was happening and why? Dive into the psychology and possible motives. Experts have dissected this incident for years, analyzing every detail. What goes through a pilot's mind in such a situation? Was it desperation, anger, or something darker? The motives remain murky, but clues from his personal life, financial troubles, health concerns, and signs of emotional distress offer glimpses into a possible motive. But could this truly explain such an action? Detail the reaction in the cabin. Imagine yourself as one of the passengers. Suddenly, you feel the plane tilt at an unnatural angle. There's a tense silence, then quiet gasps and whispers turn into panic. In those final 28 seconds, every person on board was facing their deepest fears. Describe the aftermath and investigation. When the plane finally hit the ground, the impact was devastating. Rescue teams were dispatched immediately, but the outcome was tragic. The investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of data, recordings, and witness accounts to understand what had happened and why. The black box recordings revealed the pilot's quiet determination, the steps he took to ensure the plane went down, and the chilling final seconds of silence. Unpack findings from the investigation. Over the following months, investigators unearthed details that painted a complex picture of the pilot's life. In his last days, he had shown signs of stress, signs that perhaps weren't taken seriously enough. Could this tragedy have been prevented if someone had intervened, or if protocols were different? The investigation raised difficult questions about mental health, pilot screening, and the intense pressures faced by those in the aviation industry. Conclude with a reflection on the incident's impact. This crash changed the aviation industry forever, forcing changes in pilot monitoring and cockpit protocol. But it also left families, loved ones, and the world grappling with questions that will never be fully answered. It's a haunting reminder that, in the world of flight, even the smallest decision can alter countless lives in an instant. Final reflection. As we reflect on this tragic story, we're reminded of the fragile nature of human decision-making, especially in high-stakes professions. Could it have been stopped? And how can we protect against such incidents in the future? This is a story of tragedy, loss, and the lasting impact of a single, deliberate choice.